Yo guys, sorry you already know that today I'm here to recap week 44 of my 2025 video game backlog journey. Link in the description if you need the full explanation to the list, the series, and all the games on it. We're just going to go ahead and get right into it. We are getting closer to the end of the year, only about 2 months left. So as always, I'm going to recap the previous week, then I will dive a little bit deeper into each games that I played, and then I will preview the week ahead. Where we left off, I still had a bunch of new games that I was, putting some time into, as well as juggling between Disco Elysium, Fable 2, and Fire Emblem Echoes: Shadows of Valentia. So, I'll just start right off the bat that none of these games are finished on the backlog. Disco Elysium, again, I did not really put much time into, and I'm going to have a longer discussion with that in the next section of the video. Fable 2, I actually was more consistent this past week with Fable 2, which is really cool, and that is exciting progress there. So I'm excited to talk a little bit more about that. And then Fire Emblem Echoes: Shadows of Valentia is where most of my time went this past week. I've made a ton of progress, but because it is a long game, I didn't, dedicate 47 hours to, the game, although it felt like it. I probably put legitimately at least 15, maybe like 20 in that range, which when I'm, balancing work and like 8 other games, I would say that's, fairly impressive for me. So even though I don't have games to mark off over here, I do still think that I made a lot of progress. Touching in on the games, the new games, just in terms of what I did a little bit more recording update everything, which has now become my most played game of the year in terms of new games. I don't know what that says about me, but that is a fact that you can take away from this video. Tales of Iron 2, Whiskers of Winter is something that I'm going to mark as completed. This is completed in the same way that Psychonauts is completed, which basically means I could not beat the final boss, and I do not feel like putting more time and effort into doing it. I'm calling it done. I'm done with Tales of Iron 2, and I'm just going to leave it at that. You'll get a full, not like a full, but you'll get more of a review when I start talking about like my when I rank the games of the 2025 video games at the end of the year. You'll hear a little bit more about that, but I could not beat the final boss, but I tried. I spent at least 2 hours on the final boss itself, and that felt like more than enough for me. Hades 2, I finally actually started playing, so I can start putting some hours into that. Drop Duchy, I did one session of. Last week I started highlighting one new game per week, just so I can somewhat, tee up a little bit about what I've been playing. And Drop Duchy is going to be the one that I highlight this week, so I'm excited to talk a little bit about that. Ball Pit, I was playing, I think, earlier in the week. That's kind of slowed down, but I don't know if it's going to stay slowed down. I'm not ready to mark that as done yet. I did a couple more videos of my playthrough of the 100-line Last Defense Academy, so if you want to see what that is all about, I am uploading that on the channel, so that is super exciting. And then a couple of small sessions into Ghost of Yotei. That is something that now that Tales of Iron 2 is done, I think that I will probably end up putting more time into Ghost of Yotei. But honestly, it's kind of a hard thing to get into. It's I don't know. I think it's a game that I'll highlight in future weeks when I have a little bit more time in the game. But it is not as easy to get time into the game as I was expecting. That's all I will say on that right now. I don't really have any other major events to talk about over the past week. It was a pretty standard week for me. I have a lot of pretty standard weeks left for the rest of the year. Not a lot more new games that are going to be added to the list. And then, this is what it is. You know what I mean? So let's go ahead and just jump into the games, and I am going to go ahead and talk about each of the backlog games first. So let's go ahead and start with Disco Elysium, because I am back on the train of potentially dropping Disco Elysium. And I did not really put any time into it this past week. There were a couple times where I almost hit play, and then instead, I just played something else. I don't know if that is a reflection of the quality of the game itself, or just the fact that I seem to be more interested in, playing Hades 2, or Drop Duchy, or Ball Pit, or recording one of my things, or Fire Emblem. There's so many other things to do at my computer that Disco Elysium just almost sometimes feels like a chore. It is a game that I do enjoy, but I can't I can't guarantee that I'm going to enjoy it when I like hit play. Like when I turn on the game, um, I will wander around, and sometimes I have a fantastic time, and sometimes I'm just completely lost and I'm not really making progress. And it's a game that I feel like kind of runs on vibes, which I really like the vibes of the game. But I feel like when I play games, I really like I like linear games, but I just like the ability to feel like I'm making constant, steady progress. I like obstacles being put in my way. I like overcoming those obstacles, and then I like moving forward to the next one in a very like progressive way, if that makes sense. And Disco Elysium is a lot more open-ended, where I feel like I will talk to a character and not really get anything. I will go to talk to somebody else, and I will just get another quest, and then I'll talk to somebody else, and I'm just getting another quest, and I'm not really feeling like I'm making a lot of progress towards any like main thing. And that's kind of hard for me, just with the way that my brain is wired and just like how I am as a gamer. Like I am trying to be more open-minded to all types of games, but there are just certain games that I feel like maybe don't click with me as much. As much as I love the vibes of Disco Elysium, it seems like a game that maybe I would enjoy watching somebody play more than playing it myself. But I have enough sessions where I come away like just really loving like the play session. And so I don't want to just like have that all be for like nothing. But I mean, like it also seems like if I try to commit myself to like beating it, like I might end up just not really enjoying that process. So Disco Elysium, I think I'm going to give it one more week. If I don't play it in the next week, I'm dropping it. If I play it and I'm not feeling it in the next week, I'm dropping it. If something clicks in the next week, then I will keep going and I will keep trying. So if you have any tips as to like how to better enjoy Disco Elysium, I can't even like pinpoint a problem. Like, I guess maybe it's just like the overwhelming amount of like tasks, and I'm not great at navigating the map that well, and so like I know there's the like white checks that you can go and retry and all this stuff, but like I don't have a good grasp on like my stats and like which ones are tied to which check and which check is actually going to do something, and then sometimes I can't even figure out like where the check is. I'm just like running around in circles. I don't know. Like I don't really know what I need help with, but I feel like I need something to click. So if you have any tips, feel free to let me know, because it is in dire, it's on thin ice. So that's where I'm at with Disco Elysium, but I wanted to have a longer conversation about it because I do like it, but it also just might be the type of game that is not for me to play. I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's been an interesting experience, but that's where I'm at with that. So let's go ahead and move on to Fable 2. Fable 2, I have put a little bit more time into. I feel like I had a couple of longer sessions over the past week, which felt nice. The thing with Fable 2 for the longest time is I couldn't figure out exactly like how much of the game I had played. There's nothing in-game that states playtime. There's nothing on the Xbox that tells me how many hours I put into Fable 2. And so I basically had no grasp as to like what I've done. But I was able, thankfully, like the main quests or whatever, they all have like names. And so I was able to find out that I'm about, I think, halfway through the game, which is really exciting. And that has actually given me enough motivation to feel like, oh, like I should be playing this more, because like I could actually, maybe get to the end of it sooner than I thought. So I was playing it in very small chunks early on, but I feel like those chunks have gotten a little bit bigger. It is, I don't think that my opinion of the game has changed that much. The combat has gotten, I don't know, maybe slightly harder. I'm getting like higher level spells, which like they look cooler. I have somewhat found a little bit more access to like money and then healing items and food and stuff like that. So I'm, it's not like as streamlined as like the first game, where like I would just teleport to like one shop, buy all the stuff, and then like it would like essentially like reset the next day, level up at one spot. Like that's, I still liked the process of how things were done in the first game a little bit more, but I am still enjoying the second game. I like the glowing trail that just leads me to any quest that I have, and I can use that glowing trail for a side quest for anything that I would need. So in terms of like being able to be pointed to whatever the obstacle is and then just go through it, It is nice and fairly simple. So yeah, I mean, I am enjoying Fable 2, and I think now that I know that I'm about halfway through, I think that gives me a lot of motivation to continue on to the finish, hopefully. So that is where I'm at with Fable 2. I feel more positive about it this week than I did last week. So there we go. And then the last game for the backlog that I'm going to highlight today is Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valencia. I don't know exactly where I was at this time last week, but what I can say now is that I am at the beginning of Act 4. I have looked up on Google that there are 5 acts to the game, and apparently the 5th act is shorter. So I think I'm in the last big bulk of the game, but I am at the very start of it. And as of yesterday, I really hit a steep difficulty curve, and I am struggling. I was doing one map for 2 hours, and I am still trying to do that map. It is the very first one in Act 4, and it is rough. It is rough, and I had a couple of other fights like this as well. So in Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valencia, there are certain maps that have enemies that can summon just like monsters or whatever, and they can do that every other turn. I also have a character that is able to summon monsters, and it will end up making turns really long. And if the summoner is very well protected, which they usually are, it can make battles go on for a really long time, and that can be frustrating. It was not really frustrating up until the most recent one, where it was really frustrating. I will say having the turn wheel and being able to rewind turns has been helpful, and it really feels like that should have always been a mechanic in Fire Emblem. It really does. Like having it in 3 houses, having it in Engage, and now having it in Shadows of Valencia, I like it's so night and day difference. Like, because then like not having it in Birthright and Conquest, when I have to like restart the whole chapter if I like get a unit killed, it's just so much worse. And it's so much better to be able to just like, oops, rewind the turn, because of like an oversight or something, because it happens. I'm not great at the games. I feel like I can beat Fire Emblem. They're not the easiest games like ever. But I wouldn't say I'm like great at them by any means, but I feel like I'm passable. But I make mistakes, and I like being able to just like rewind turns without having to like restart a whole chapter, especially when some of the chapters or battles can take a really long time. So I'm hoping that I'm just having like one bad fight, and it's not going to be a signifier of the rest of the game, because if every single battle I'm having takes like multiple hours and I'm like beating my head against a wall and just like struggling, then that is going to become not fun. But generally I was gonna say generally the challenge has been fun, but there also have been plenty of fights where it hasn't been challenging at all. But I think some of my complaints also I have been sort of resolved. I found it a lot I found it pretty easy and consistent to like level up and change classes when I need to. I found a lot of healing items, special items, things like that. I'm sure I haven't found everything, but I really do like the vibe of the game, the aesthetic, the story, the characters. A lot of it is hitting, and I do really like it a lot. And if I can just get past some of the couple of frustrating battles, I think I'm going to end up having a very high opinion of the game. So I'm just going to cross my fingers and hope for the best. But that's where I'm at now. Yeah, I think I have like at least 20 to 25 hours to play time. So I should theoretically be halfway through, if not more than halfway through. Story-wise, I'm definitely more than halfway through. So we'll just have to see how that goes. And that is all I have to say on that. So before we move on to the final section of the video, I'm going to highlight one new game for this week. And I'm going to highlight Drop Duchy. Drop Duchy is a game that I believe came out in April, and it was something that I think I came across somebody on YouTube playing, and I was like, oh, this seems like something up my alley. And then I think I bought it at like on like the Steam fall sale. I mean, it was only like 10% off, something like that. But I think full price is like a $15 game. So I think it's been well worth it so far. Drop Duchy is kind of you have these Tetris pieces that have land and like terrain on them, and you put them on a board and you get resources out of that. You use those resources to buy cards, and then or like the cards, but like you basically buy like other terrain pieces that will have special effects, and then you will have combat where the terrain pieces will generate like combat power. You will have to fit in your opponents or like the enemies like combat power into your little Tetris grid. It's really fun strategic game. I don't think the strategy is so complex that it's pretty easy to grasp. I feel like the skill floor is fairly low. But I'm sure like the skill ceiling, I'm sure you can do a lot of crazy combinations that I haven't even like gotten to. There is a lot of consistent progress. There are special boss fights that change up the gameplay a little bit, but what you see on screen is like a pretty good indication of like sort of what the gameplay is like. I think it's really addicting. It's really fun. It's really easy to just be like, all right, let me do like one more run type thing. And after each little board, like it auto saves, so like even in the middle of a run, it's very easy to just like quit and pick it back up later. So it's very good. I'm still working on unlocking the next like faction, because you start with one, and I don't even know what it's like to have a different faction yet, but you start with one, and you play through 3 acts, and while you're doing that, you'll make progress by unlocking more tile pieces, terrain pieces, extra features of the game. There's like unlockable things, so like the more you play, the more you unlock, and just the more stuff you get to do. It's really just like it feels like never ending. But I was able to beat the first 3 acts, so that's basically the whole game is like those 3 acts. Like if you beat that, like you've beaten a run essentially. But I would like to unlock more and play more. So yeah, it's really fun. It is 100% up my alley. It's just like one of those weird like quirky games that it's this like Tetris strategy, resource management, roguelite type thing that I just think is super interesting and unlike anything that I've personally seen before. So it is a game that I wanted to highlight because it is something that I am enjoying. And even though it isn't like the newest game, it's something from earlier in the year, I thought it was worth touching on because it is a game that I have enjoyed putting my time into. But that is all I have to say about that. So I will go ahead and move on to the final section of the video where I will preview the week ahead. So I think I already touched on some of these. So in terms of the new games, now that Tales of Iron 2 is completed, the only things that I have on the PlayStation are Ghost of Yotei and Ball Pit, and Ghost of Yotei definitely seems like something that I will put some more time into. I will probably just put a little bit of time into each of these other ones. I don't know if I'm going to hard commit into any of these. A lot of my PC time, I think, is going to be put into Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valencia. I really feel like if I can get past the little the obstacles that I'm facing right now, I think I could potentially be able to finish it by next week. I might not be able to do that. We might be looking at like 2 weeks for that. But I think that I could make a lot of progress because I've already been able to make so much progress over the last week. What's to stop me from making even more progress this upcoming week? I also have plenty of free time this upcoming week, so I should theoretically be able to put a decent amount of hours into gaming overall. I think that if I really put my mind to it, I could also potentially finish Fable 2, and that would be super exciting. So we'll see if that is something that is able to be done or not. But I think Fable 2 and Fire Emblem Echoes are very possible to be done in the next week, and if not the next week, the next 2 weeks. And then at that point, we can start looking at games to play when they're finished. I'm thinking that when Fable 2 is done, maybe like Ori and Will of the Wisps would be really cool. I would really like to play that before the year is over. And then if Shadows of Valencia gets finished, then I could pick up either a PlayStation game or maybe I really Life is Strange 2 is right there. That is probably something I should do. I think Jack 3 is very likely to be played by the end of the year, and maybe Uncharted 4. I don't think I'm going to end up playing both Uncharted games by the end of the year. I think that's probably pushing it. So those are the ones that are sort of the highest priority in my mind that I think will get played. You know, games with lesser hours, and that I think that I could actually feasibly finish. Those are the ones that I would like to concentrate on throughout the month of November and early December, and then I will just have to finish up games. And then wherever I'm at is where I'm at. So that is what I sort of expect for the week ahead. I will let you know how that goes next week. You know, we'll see how Disco Elysium goes. I am sort of thinking that I'm going to end up dropping it, but I want to give it one last chance just to see what happens. So that might be done, and maybe I will replace that with something. I don't think so. I think if I just stop playing Disco Elysium, then I will just, you know, put more time into, like, Hades 2 or... I don't know. I was like, everything else I'm kind of already putting in as much time as I'd like to. Hades 2 is the only one that I could probably increase the time. So, I don't know. Maybe it is possible if I decide to stop playing Disco Elysium. Maybe that would be a good enough time to just start playing Life is Strange 2. But yeah. That's sort of where my head is at, and I will let you know how it goes next week. And that is that. So yeah, let me know any comments, questions, concerns that you may have. Let me know if you have any tips for enjoying Disco Elysium more, or your thoughts on any of the other games that I talked about today. And that is all I've got for you. So hopefully you have enjoyed it. So let me know. But I will see you all next week for week 45. That is crazy. We are really getting to the end of the year fast, but I will see you then. So, yeah, take care. Goodbye.